Hello and welcome to another episode of Apnao Conversations. We are continuing with our theme, A Girl is Precious. Today's topic is the POCSO Act, that is, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. Today we'll be talking with Mrs. Ruth Thomas, who is a co-founder of SRT Law Associates, which is engaged in multi-law practice with special focus on women, children and vulnerable groups. She worked as a legal consultant for international organizations on human trafficking for about 8.5 years. She started her career working on sex trafficking cases in Mumbai. Her work experience includes rescues and trials on ITPA matters, POCSO, POSH matters and rape cases. Now, Ruth has trained many police officers, NGO members, judicial officers, lawyers, law students and prosecutors across the country on these issues. Welcome, Mrs. Ruth Thomas to Apnao Conversations.
Thank you so much.
As an introduction to today's topic, I would like to quote the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The child, by reason of his physical and mental immaturity, needs special safeguards and care, including appropriate legal protection before as well as after birth. When I was growing up, it was normal, ma'am, for everyone to protect and watch out for children in our community. But life has changed so much now. I don't leave my kids with anyone except my immediate family and only the ones I trust among them. What happened in this generation? Why do we see an increase in child sexual abuse all over the country and the world?
At least during my time, what we have seen is, we realized there were child sexual abuse and many of us were, also survivors of abuse, but we were too scared to talk about it within our own families. Even if we did talk to our family members, they just brushed off saying that, this may create a lot of issues. Let's not talk about it. But at the same time, we also know that there are a lot of other platforms that we are seeing right now. It's not just the physical environment that child sits at, right? Most of these children are accessing online platforms, for online classes, it could be online chats. And so the amount of exposure they have is much more. And so because of it, the risks are higher. There is a higher demand for child sexual abuse on online platforms, and it's increased from 200% to 300%. So the risk and the exploitative behavior of the criminals have gone higher as well. And also because it can be very anonymous in nature. You can, ask for a girl child to get abused, right? Somewhere in, another country altogether, like the US, and the abuse would be happening at India, and, someone else would be, actually selling it through another country. So it's that difficult to trace. So because of which there is a higher number of online abuse happening all over the world.
What are the different types of sexual abuse a child, especially a girl child, might face?
In a family setup where patriarchy is followed, most of the time it's easier to abuse a girl child. The POCSO Act talks about all kinds of assaults that take place. The first would be penetrative sexual assault, which means there is a penetration involved, or we usually call it as rape. Right? Any kind of penetration that a child has to suffer. That could be, through a mouth or through private parts like a vagina. That would be called as penetrative sexual assault. Then there's something called sexual assault, wherein you do not have penetrations, but there is some kind of touch. A person is involved in touching, the private parts of a child. That is called sexual assault. The third part is sexual harassment, where there is no penetrations or touch, but any kind of gestures or words, which means, you just talk very dirty talk to a child. That is sexual harassment. And it need not be just in the physical environment. It can be also an online chat or an online troll. All of that can also be regarded as sexual harassment. And finally is pornography, which means if a child is depicted in a very sexual manner on an electronic media, that can be anything, could start from, TV, or, just electronic media that includes online platforms, chats, apps, or even just, websites. All of this, if it depicts a child in a very sexual nature, or depicts a child as a sexual object, then that would be regarded as pornography. If there's any abuse, it would come under any of these four definitions. So it's very exhaustive and very comprehensive.
So, do we have a strong prevention and response system to tackle this issue?
One of the major ways in which we can all fight this work is to ensure that we are aware. First thing is, be aware. Child sexual abuse is a reality. It needs to be tackled with. If you come across any such event, report it. Ensure that you are able to block that kind of abuse. And the only way to block is to report. All of us have a mandatory duty to ensure that we report about, any kind of abuse. We have anonymous toll-free numbers available, which is the 1098. And this is very easy. Just, dial up 1098. If you come across any of such events, immediately call them and report. There are NGOs who would definitely go into it, investigate what's happening, and ensure that the child is rescued immediately. Another way that you can do about it is to be, ensure that you talk about this within your own communities. If you're dealing with children, ensure that you have a policy which clearly says that we have no tolerance over child sexual abuse, and to have all your employees or all the persons who are part of this community to sign such policies. So whether you are an organization, whether you are part of a public forum, ensure that you sign up these policies so that child sexual abuse do not happen. And if you are part of bigger educational institutions, ensure that you also have background verifications of all your stuff. This is something that many of the organizations do slip by.
People do get afraid, especially families, to say that such a thing has happened in the house or to their child. And most often we don't realize that these things can happen at home through people. Is this a common understanding? Who should we be, I would say, be scared of or what, but who are the perpetrators of this kind of a crime?
Based on the statistics that is done by NCRB and as well as many other organizations, what we see that many of these children who face child sexual abuse, when asked about who the perpetrator was, 93% of these child victims stated that they were someone who were known to them, which means these children were abused by not by some strangers, by someone like an uncle or a step grandfather or a stepfather, or it could be their own sisters or brothers, it could be their cousins, it could be their own teachers. So this is something that we should all be aware as family, to ensure that you tell your children about how to protect their own bodies. This is something very important. And also, if something happens, to ensure that it's not your fault. Most of the time what we see is many of the children feel like, is it because I invited this upon myself? So it's very important to tell each of our children, and also to the community at large, to let our children know that it's not their fault, and it's the surrounding adults' responsibility to protect the child. And if they have committed a crime, then obviously it is their fault. And also the most important thing is, this is some term that we always say, just say no, go and tell. So, that's what we tell all children, even if they are small, like immediately say no if something's like this is happening, and rush and tell to your trusted guardian or to your parents about what is happening. Because unless the parents know, they wouldn't understand what is happening, right? Because it's, we are also part of a routine, and we would not be able to observe our children all the time. And so it's important for us as parents or as, adults, to talk to children, to tell them to come and tell us. Give them that space, give them that opportunity to speak about it. Many children are worried, thinking, what will their parents do later? Will they, stop me from going somewhere and things like that? So it's important to create that space as well. And that's when I think it's, children will be more open to be telling, about their abuse or anything that they have even seen. It could be their friend. but they can, easily come back home and talk.
We did a documentary on capturing some of the stories of, uh, people who were abused as a child. And what struck out the most to me was that most of them actually found intervention when they were grown-ups, like in their 30s or 40s, when they're away from their family in a different environment. They found somebody they could go for counseling. Most of them didn't realize that they needed counseling, and it could even cause a kind of trauma or impact them in some way subconsciously. How should a child deal in situations like this? What kind of trauma they go through, and why they should not be quiet, and where can they find a support system?
This is very, very important for us to know that children go through a lot of trauma, especially after an abuse. Many times, anxieties that we see on the child can be transpired into their physical symptoms, which is mostly like, they always have a tummy pain, they do not want to sleep, or they see nightmares. Or they do not want to go to the place of abuse and things like that. So it's for us to immediately talk to the child and see if it's anything related to, a suspectful child sexual abuse. So that's very important. Another thing is for parents, once you've understood that the child has gone through such kind of abuse, is to ensure that give them protection. And also, when you're talking to the child, do not give false promises, but at the same time, lead questions, put questions in such a way that asking that, I know you have something going on, what's happening, do you want to talk about it? And then have the child lead the story, right? And don't put questions to the child in a way that the child feels uncomfortable. Have the child lead the story, and that's when you as a parent or as a teacher would be able to understand the child better. Now, if you feel like as a teacher, maybe you are not as close to the child, you ensure that the child is immediately sent to a counselor or a child therapist, because they'll be able to derive the actual facts out of the child. Once you realize that there has been an abuse, then it is your decision on how to report. And if you've made the decision to report to the authorities, then you should also, it's always best practice to talk to your child and tell them how the system will look like and what is this all about, and to tell them that you are not at fault, and to also tell them that you are ensuring that other children are protected. Also tell them that this is a system, it might take time, but we are there to support you, we are there to be there for you. And this is just to ensure that the person who has committed this mistake face accountability and not you. So these are some of the ways that you can ensure that children who have faced child sexual abuse gets the healing at the right time, and also that it is not re-traumatizing for them. Now, there are many adults who would not have talked about the child abuse when they were children, and when they became adults, they realized, okay, this was, and the trauma still is there. So it's important to ensure that we get enough therapy. I'm not saying that it'll all be healed and it will be completely, you will come out better, but therapy and trauma counseling and trauma focused care and rehabilitation is a very important aspect.
And how can institutions like schools or religious places get involved in intervention and prevention?
Most of the children that come from homes, their second home is these educational institutions, right? And so something that we all need to understand is that there could be abuse happening within your own institutions, and to accept that, I mean, it's a possibility. I'm not saying it will happen, but there is a possibility. And the way we can prevent is, now ensure that you have a committee in place so that children, if they face any kind of such issues, is able to come and talk about it. And also to have child therapists or neutral people within these committees, like a lawyer or a child therapist, to understand what exactly has happened and to do further action. Apart from it, I would say, as communities, let's be active bystanders. Do not say it's okay, it's just one time, let's leave it, it's our uncle, it's our sister. No, when there's an abuse happening, raise it up, stop it, and ensure accountability is laid out. Because what we've seen is the moment we do not talk about it, the same person would abuse another person. Do be active bystanders against violence. There are a lot of forums available, there are a lot of lawyers ready to help out. Please connect with me if you need any kind of help. Again, the toll free number 1098 is the easiest way forward. So if you come across any such situation, it's just a dial away.
How does this 1098 work, ma'am?
It's like any other toll free number. Just call 1098. Immediately, there'll be a person talking to you. The person would ask what exactly has happened. If you've come across any such situation, we have had so many cases wherein we rescued children from child labor, from POCSO, from child sexual abuse just through 1098. So the thing is, someone called 1098 and said that this is happening, and obviously there is a system in place wherein they will connect with childline NGOs. These NGOs will connect with other communities, and immediately there is a team formulated. The team would immediately go back into the place where this event has taken place and rescues the child. So we have seen many victims who are shattered, who are completely shattered by their abusers, but through support, they realize their dreams. They have come back to court, testified against their perpetrators, and we have received some strong sentencing from the court as well. And we have seen a strong, empowered woman. By the time the court procedures and everything is over, we don't see a girl anymore. We see a strong woman who is ready to face any harsh reality of the world and still come strong like a phoenix.
It's a beautiful way to end our conversation today. A little bit of strength, little bit of courage, little bit of walking alongside people can change their life forever and change our lives too forever. And they can rise up. Like you said, they can rise up from the ashes like a phoenix and flourish as they're supposed to. So thank you, ma'am, so much for sharing about the rights of a child. We appreciate you taking time to speak about this important topic.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I hope that as communities we'll be able to help as many and see all of us soaring.
Viewers, I would encourage you to find some time and read about the values and rights mentioned in the Convention of Rights of a Child and the POCSO Act. So here are some takeaways from today's topic. Every child has the right to dignity and worth and social progress, equality, freedom, peace, and safety. A child is entitled to special care and protection at home, at school, at all environment the child is in. A family is most important environment for a child to grow. If the parents are not able to provide the basic care and protection for a child, we should come alongside them and help them. And like ma'am said, the second place that they are there mostly is a school environment or any religious place. So make sure you have the child protection policy or a system set up in place to protect a child and make them feel comfortable and enjoy those hours they spend in school or at any religious place. So I conclude by quoting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, recognizing that the child, for the full and harmonious development of his or her personality, should grow up in a family environment, in an atmosphere of happiness, love, and understanding. The child, by reason of his physical and mental immaturity, needs special safeguards and care, including appropriate legal protection before as well as after birth. Don't be afraid of the legal system. There are people to handhold you in case you need a help, in case your child needs help. Reach out to people like Ms. Ruth and their organization who will walk alongside you. Friends, it is our duty to help children flourish in the world they are born into. They shouldn't be worrying about their safety and well-being every second of the day. Incidents of sexual abuse against children occur at schools, religious places, parks, hostels, etc. This is a common place where they are, and this should change. The security of child should be guaranteed everywhere. This can happen only when we learn to respect and value the lives of others, and especially the lives of children. Thank you, and keep the conversations going. Connect with us on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. Until next time, I am Pearl Ganta from Apnao. Nayi Soch, Naya Jeevan.